Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be covering what if Naruto was Kurapika's reincarnation. Now, I figured this idea would be perfect considering that this dude is literally known as the chain user himself in Hunter x Hunter, of course, in case you don't know where he's from. And Naruto just so happens to be a natural born Uzumaki. So I figured, hey, I almost never take advantage of the chakra chain ability, and I'm even able to give Naruto a really cool fan-made dojutsu that's similar to that of the Kurta clan's eyes. I was like, dude, sign me up for that. I gotta drop this video. With that said, a subscriber ended up recommending this idea to me in the public what if Google Doc link in description. With that said, shout out to my favorite thumbnail maker, Emmett, and with that out of the way, enjoy. Naruto, dinner's ready, Kushina would say as she would turn to a young Naruto who would come running outside, getting ready to absolutely get down with some waffles, eggs, and bacon. He would smile at Kushina as he would say, "Is dad almost home?" With Kushina responding, "No, not yet, but he should be teleporting in any second now. You know how he can get with work every now and then. Once he gets here, I'm gonna definitely have to let him hear about this." And so Kushina and Naruto would sit down as Kushina would pretty much put Minato's food into a container to keep it warm. Naruto seeing this would smile as he would be so excited to have his father come home, with this version of Naruto being a grand total of 5 years old. Naruto would sit there with a smile on his face as suddenly a huge explosion would engulf the land of Whirlpool, sending Naruto crashing to the ground as he would think, "No, my arm! My arm!" Blood would be coming down from Naruto's head as he'd be bleeding from there as well, and you would have essentially seen Kushina leap in front of Naruto, taking most of the brunt force from this. Kushina, seeing that Naruto would have been sent flying from this massive explosion and understanding that they're probably under attack right now, will tell Naruto to hide quickly. So Kushina would walk Naruto over under some rubble and place him underneath it, as she would go on to tell Naruto to stay quiet and make no noise no matter what. Suddenly, men in black cloaks with red clouds on them would appear in front of Naruto as they would restrain Kushina, and a man with an orange mask would hold Kushina down, beginning to extract the nine tails out of Kushina, as suddenly you would see a gigantic version of Kurama appear, with Obito staring right at it and essentially causing Kurama to rampage in the land of Whirlpool. Luckily for Naruto, Kurama had missed stomping on him barely, and the Akatsuki didn't care enough about Naruto to do anything about him. So they would simply flash away as, using their body flicker, they would proceed to fight all of the remaining shinobis who weren't too injured to fight. And as this would happen, a man would appear, a man with yellow hair and a Hokage robe. He would be pissed, and this man would be Minato Namikaze. But before we can get into this weird fight that normally never happens, let me just quickly explain why it is that Naruto even has his parents to this point. And the only reason for this is due to the fact that A, this is what if Naruto was Kurapika's reincarnation, so we're not only going to be giving him the abilities of Kurapika in chakra form, meaning not exactly Nen, but we're also going to be giving him that tragic backstory of losing his entire clan. So we're going to be making Naruto like Sasuke in essence. Also, in terms of explaining the abilities that Naruto's going to be having, for those of you guys that have never seen Hunter x Hunter, essentially Naruto's going to be having an Uzumaki dojutsu, which essentially is going to activate anytime that he's extremely mad or when he forcibly activates it, but that's something that's only awakened once you have extreme control of this dojutsu. This dojutsu ability is also going to allow him to have incredible sensory capabilities, and he'd be able to sense people's intentions and emotions. Nothing like future sight or anything like that, but it would definitely be helpful in a fight to understand what your opponent intends to do. Anyways, this also is going to be granting him access to all 5 chakra natures whenever he has the dojutsu active, instead of his normal natures, which are limited to wind, and I think that's about it for the original Naruto. He's also going to have the ability to project his will onto people, similarly to Bloodlust. Think like Nen, when you're essentially pushing your energy onto other people. And lastly, it is going to be having one drawback, which is essentially that Naruto's lifespan is going to be slowly drained every single time that he uses this dojutsu, which comes at a massive cost, which I think is even greater than that of the Mangekyo. But With that being said, I want to give huge credit to my buddy Emmett, who's the thumbnail maker for this video, so please go check his links out down below in the description, as well as my buddy Gabe, who actually ended up helping me with the scripting process for this video, so shout out to him, thanks a million bro. But with that being said, let's get back into the story. Minato would stare down the members of the Akatsuki in front of him, with the exception of Deidara, as well as Itachi, as the paths of pain standing in front of him would look extremely imposing. Minato in his mind would count each and every single one of them before looking to his left and right respectively, seeing a couple of the members of the Whirlpool Village, aka Uzumaki clan members, who were willing to put their lives on the line not only to protect the village, but to reseal the Nine Tails back into Kushina. Unfortunately for them, however, the stakes were not in their favor, and try as they might, there was just no way Minato and these men were going to be making it out of here alive. The battle would commence, and simultaneously, we would jump cut to Naruto, who would think, there's no way, this isn't happening, right? We were gonna have breakfast. He would shake Kushina. Blood would begin coming out of her mouth as she would cough. Naruto, I need you to stay safe. Stay hidden. Naruto, seeing this, would be like, Mom, wake up. Mom! He would scream, but there'd be no answer. Kushina, thanks to having the Nine Tails ripped out of her, as well as taking a massive amount of damage from being sent flying across the wall and trying to protect Naruto as much as she could, would have taken heavy damage from that. Now pile on top the fact that she had the Nine Tails ripped out of her, and she'd be dead. Minato at the same moment would be fighting a losing battle and realizing that there was just no way he was going to be able to contend with all these people, even with the help of some of the strongest members of the Uzumaki clan. Fire jutsus would begin being thrown from every direction, water styles, wind jutsus, and they would try their best, but ultimately the Akatsuki were just far too strong. And anytime that it seemed that they were getting leeway, the Diva Path's six-path connection would be too much of a problem for Minato, as he would quickly act, fighting off the Akatsuki as best as he can, Obito rushing towards him to try to make contact with him to send him to the Kamui dimension, as Minato, in a split second, would teleport to a different flying Raijin marker, appearing right in front of Naruto, as he would instantly teleport Naruto back to the Hidden Leaf Village, where he would leave Naruto in the Hokage Manor. From here, Minato would teleport back into the battle, looking up at Kurama once and sigh, as he knows that this is something that he just has to do. He has to leave the village with something, and he has to take at least one Akatsuki member with him. Minato would use the Death Reaper seal, as he would try to get Obito with it, but realizing that he just couldn't, he would ultimately teleport to Kurama, as using this exact jutsu on him, he would take Kurama and flying Raijin back to Naruto, as he would seal Kurama inside of Naruto, who would yell out in pain from the strange experience he had never felt before. Naruto at this point would fall to one knee, as he would feel so much more different, and Minato would simply fall down onto both knees in front of Naruto, as he would hug him tightly, his eyes fading from color to white, as suddenly his pupils would be gone and Minato would collapse in the office. Naruto at this point would have multiple ninjas surrounding him and the Hokage, as Naruto, seeing the images of his mother and father both dying in front of his eyes, would feel truly horrified. Now obviously we know that in the original story, Naruto had both of his parents die in front of him, but not like this. Not in a way that Naruto would remember. Not in a way that would scar Naruto for the rest of his life. Not in a way that anytime that Naruto would go to sleep, this is the image that he's going to be greeted to. Whenever he remembers his mom and dad, this is what he sees. It's impossible for Naruto to remember the good times, because every time that he thinks about his mom and dad now, he's going to have a tear come to his eyes from the painful memories of his loss. And with that said, from this following day, everything would change for Naruto. The village would go on to hold a funeral for Minato, and as for the Akatsuki, they would have ended up getting their goal. They were paid not only to take the eyes from the Uzumaki clan, essentially for selling them to the highest bidder, but also to wipe them out by an enemy village. The Nine Tails was simply a secondary mission. but seeing as they're not going to be using him anytime soon, Obito ended up being fine retreating without the Nine Tails. Since he would have done this in the original, I see no reason why I can't just, plot armor my way through this story and just kind of author note it. Obviously we know that Obito probably wouldn't, but there's a lot of decisions that were made in Naruto simply for the story's sake, so I feel like I should have the liberty to do something like that just for this little moment. That said, we're gonna jump cut to a scene of Naruto standing before the graves of his mother and father, as at this point Hiruzen would have already been inaugurated as the next Hokage to step up, or technically previous Kage to step back up, and Naruto would sit there in front of these graves as he would simply think, I miss you guys. I miss you so much. Tears would begin welling up in Naruto's eyes as he would begin profusely trying to take them off of himself, but no matter how hard he tried, the tears just wouldn't start coming, and so Naruto simply sat there crying, just letting all of his emotions out, as Naruto would finally ball up his fist and squeeze it so tightly that he could swear blood nearly came out. Naruto would make one promise to Minato and Kushina, saying that he vows to kill those men, and that he was going to be avenging his clan, not only for their sake, but for his as well. They took everything from him, so now he's gonna take everything from them. Naruto after this point in time would experience a lot of changes. The bright Naruto that everybody once knew would now change to a more darker, monotone character, similar to the Sasuke that we get after the Uchiha massacre. Since Sasuke still hasn't been traumatized, Naruto would be the only class emo, and what's interesting is Naruto's popularity would skyrocket even further. Having been not only the son of Minato, who was the previous Kage, and having been a very talented shinobi in the academy before that, Naruto now with this cool jaded personality would attract more attention from the girls, with Sasuke thinking that he was just a show-off since Naruto was his only competition. However, one day, things would drastically change for Sasuke, and Itachi would end up massacring the entire Uchiha clan, as Sasuke's life would be completely flipped on its head, and Sasuke could now finally understand why it was that Naruto acted this way. And once this would become public knowledge to everybody, Naruto, seeing Sasuke sitting alone, would sit next to him, as Sasuke would essentially snap at Naruto, who was simply just trying to be there for him, but Sasuke, not wanting to talk to anybody, being mad at the world for the cards that it had dealt him, would snap. However, an interesting thing would happen. Naruto would smile at Sasuke as he would get even closer to him and say that he understands the pain, the rage, as he would tremble as he says that, and the confusion, as his eyes would turn red and he would stare at Sasuke. Sasuke, hearing the words that Naruto used, would feel them almost recoil through his entire body, as he would remember that Naruto understands him. He went through exactly just that. And Sasuke would simply ask, how do you deal with it? Naruto, looking to Sasuke, would say, I don't know. Most nights I just lie to myself and tell myself it's not real. Other times I say that revenge will make things feel better, but I don't know how I deal with things, Sasuke. It doesn't exactly get easier eventually. But I can tell you one thing. You can't just mope and give up. You have to have a goal. You have to keep pushing for them. Sasuke, hearing this, would nod as he would stare at Naruto, telling him that he has a goal, as Naruto would cut him off, saying he has a similar goal, asking Sasuke if it'd be right to assume that his goal is to become stronger, strong enough to get revenge. Sasuke, hearing this, would nod as he'd be squeezing his hand as tightly as Naruto once did, as Naruto would look at him and say, then train with me. It's my goal to kill the men that killed my father and mother, as well as my entire clan. And I know that you want to get strong enough to kill your brother, so I think it's in our best interest to work together. I've gotten leaps and bounds stronger than you'd ever know, and I did this by training harder than I ever had before. Sasuke, it's not easy, and the life of an Avenger's not a pleasant one. But if you join me, I promise that with your help, and with my help, we'll both be able to achieve our goals. After all, two heads are better than one. Sasuke in this moment would simply accept Naruto's offer, as from this day forth, Naruto and Sasuke would train every single day after the academy and would become insanely powerful for their age, eventually graduating the academy as some of the strongest in the class, with Naruto being the stronger of the two. thanks to his mother and father's assistance before they died and their continued assistance after their death. Because after everything would have ended up happening, Naruto would have ended up trying to train on his own, becoming as strong as he possibly could by working on the things that Minato would have taught him in terms of taijutsu and the basics of chakra chains that his mother Kushina would have taught him. Naruto at this point would realize that he wasn't exactly getting anywhere with this method, and so Naruto would end up visiting Hiruzen after this, asking him to train him, but Hiruzen being too busy with village affairs and the fact that the Akatsuki were a threat that was now being actively defended against, or, trying to have countermeasures prepared against, would be something that's on Hiruzen's mind. He just didn't have the time. But he would have access to something that might help Naruto. Hiruzen would hand Naruto a scroll that Minato would have left for him before he passed, as Naruto would take this scroll and would begin dissecting it every single day, using this gift that his mom and dad would have left behind, as he would read every single word, swearing that he was going to be using this to get justice for his entire clan and to slaughter the Akatsuki. In this scroll, Naruto would learn basic sealing jutsus, he would learn different styles of taijutsu, but most of all, Naruto would find his mother's help more useful than anything, because Naruto had an unnatural affinity for chakra chains. It was something that used practically no chakra for Naruto, and thanks to the fact that Naruto has seen them in action thanks to Kushina, Naruto would be a natural at this, as this would be the main thing that Naruto would have up his arsenal in terms of how strong he is, as well as having a couple basic wind style jutsus, and having some understanding for all 5 chakra natures thanks to his dojutsu, which for what if purpose's sake is going to be named the Kurtagon, which is obviously just a clear reference to Hunter x Hunter and the Kurta clan that Kurapikas from. But with that being said, we could immediately jump into Team 7 being formed, with Naruto, Sakura, and Hinata being placed onto Team 7. We'd get the same scene where everybody would go over their goals, and Naruto and Sasuke's goals would be extremely similar, with both of them saying that they want to get strong enough to avenge their clan. As Kakashi hearing this and understanding that not only does he have one crazy avenger on his team, but now he has 2. Kakashi would ponder on this, but ultimately would simply tell the team that tomorrow they need to get ready for the bell test. And so, the next day would roll around as Naruto and Sasuke would stand behind Kakashi as they would wait for him to finish explaining the rules of the test and ultimately give the signal to begin. And ultimately, he would do so, as Naruto and Sasuke both would dart in opposite directions, shocking Kakashi with their speed, as well as Sakura, who would stand there confused and frenzied as Kakashi would lunge at Sakura, taking her out quickly, as she would be knocked out. All the while, Naruto and Sasuke would scout out Kakashi in the area as they would both charge in. However, the only real ninja there was Sasuke, as the Naruto in question was nothing but a clone. Sasuke launches in with taijutsu attacks mixed in with fireball jutsus, while Naruto would wait anxiously. During Sasuke and Kakashi's brief clash, Naruto would finally create a strategy as he would dig underground and come up behind Kakashi, using a rock style jutsu as his dojutsu would be activated and he would pin Kakashi down, as Sasuke would shoot a giant fireball jutsu at Kakashi, who would substitute for a log at the last moment, with the log being burned to ash, demonstrating just how powerful this version of Sasuke is. However, Kakashi's abrupt success would quickly turn into defeat, as Naruto's earlier deployed shadow clones would all shoot chakra chains at Kakashi, as hundreds of chains would come flying in towards his direction, and Kakashi would be restrained instantly, as they would pin him down and each grab a bell, leaving none for Sakura, as they would go on to explain that they passed. From this moment, Kakashi, ending up being freed from his restraints, would stand in front of him as he would explain that while they might have worked extremely well together, Sakura wasn't included in the plan, and even though they managed to get the bells, they failed. This would leave a look of absolute shock on their faces as they'd be stunned, thinking, "What? How did we fail?" But Kakashi would quickly go on to explain that the point of this test was teamwork, and while both of them worked well together, the fact that all 3 of them couldn't do that basically means that the team's synergy wasn't exactly going to be working for a 3-man squad. After this would happen, they would end up asking for a second chance, and after Kakashi realizes that this team has a lot of potential, he would end up giving them another opportunity, as he would tie both of them up to the stump, saying that they could have one after Sakura eats, as she, being the only one left with the bento bowl would quickly offer it to Sasuke as well as Naruto, with her thinking that both of them were actually some of her crushes, with Sasuke being a lot more than Naruto, but still, she liked Naruto a lot in this version, and when Sakura was placed on this team, boy was she over the moon. That said, Kakashi seeing this display of quote-unquote teamwork would actually pass the team just like they do in the original, as much like in canon, we would essentially see the team going on a bunch of E-rank missions followed by the Tazuna Bridge Builder mission, which would be given to them after Naruto would ask for a harder mission. And seeing as Kakashi also believes that the team is ready for this, they would be given the mission, as we now jump into the first change that's going to be occurring during this mission, the Demon Brothers encounter. The second the Demon Brothers Genjutsu would be noticed by both of them, they would both look at each other as they would nod, and before Kakashi could even fake his own death, Sasuke would throw a kunai directly towards the direction of the chain that one of the brothers was using, as he would go on to stab both of them into a tree with their chain, unable to let them move, as Naruto, jumping up into the air, would proceed to create a wind style jutsu that he would shoot at both Demon Brothers, sending a huge gust of wind at them, which would ultimately tear up their clothes and leave multiple paperclip-like cuts on their bodies, which causes them to burn extremely, as Kakashi, after seeing this, would go over to the Demon Brothers and question them on why in the world they were here in the first place, as both Demon Brothers would eventually end up either telling him or not telling him, I don't really know or care, but after this would happen, Kakashi would realize that this mission was clearly not C rank, but judging by the way that these two boys just performed by taking down the two Demon Brothers, Kakashi wasn't worried to continue the mission, noting that both of them could probably take him out even in a full-fledged, full-on battle. So they would continue forward, and as time progresses, a sudden mist would coat the entire area, as Kakashi looking around would note that this was not normal, when suddenly he could hear the sounds of a gigantic object flying towards them. Kakashi would say, "Everybody duck!" as Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto would all go down, and you would see a gigantic blade appear in front of them, with the team having their first encounter with the Demon of the Mist, Zabuza Mochi. That said, ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm going to be ending part 1 for What If Naruto Was Kurapika's Reincarnation. If you guys are going to be wanting to see a second part of this, then I'm going to be needing to see massive support from you guys in terms of the like button, comments, and views. I had a ton of fun making this What If, but if ultimately this video doesn't do too well, then I know I got to take the thing behind the barn and shoot it. So with that being said, it has been your boy Xehther, and I am out. Peace.
Looks like you made it to the end of the video. Leave a like, comment, share the video with a friend, and subscribe, or die by my blade.